Okay, how we feeling? How we doing today? Let's dive back into it. I got a really awesome clip where we can see the difference between cultural individualism and collectivism, and it's always around racial lines. There are black people that speak individualism, and there are white people that speak collectivism, and I'll highlight that. But right now, we're just seeing the difference, trying to notice when they show up. So we got Jim Brown on the Dick Cavett show. This is way back. He's with Governor Lester Maddox. This is a governor sitting on a TV show back in the day. I love the conversation they have, so this is pretty cool. But I just want y'all to listen for the different cultures, the individualism and collectivism. Make sure I'm not playing it at double speed because I'm notorious for that. All right, let's hop into it. Let's listen up, see how this goes.
Governor, let me just ask you this right straight out. What do you understand racism to mean, or how would you define that, or segregation? Would you say you're a segregationist?
Yes, and I believe in my term, or my definition of segregation, yes, and that is a segregationist is a person that loves his race enough, or other races enough, has enough of racial pride and integrity to want to preserve them. And I think a racist is one that doesn't care enough for his race or another race to where don't care whether they're amalgamated or destroyed or not.
Yo, that's a crazy definition. I've never heard that before. A racist is someone that doesn't want to preserve one of the races and or allows the destruction of one. And then a non-racist is a segregationist who does that to preserve the cultures of each one. Some mental gymnastics here to protect him from being racist. As an individualist, you can kind of do whatever you want. So the issue, though, is a collectivist will not allow you your own definition because you're in a system. So Jim Brown and a lot of people are probably like, bullshit, bullshit, you know. But let's give him his definition.
Then could I ask the governor a question?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the black Muslims in this country?
Not too familiar with them, no.
Well, they practice black separatism.
Well, that's the reason I'm not familiar with them.
Yo, he's quick, bro. He said, hey, I don't know him. Well, they keep themselves separate. Then that's why I don't know him. See, other people might be like, see, you ain't paying attention to black Muslims. He's like, they not wanting to, they don't want to mess with me, and I respect that. I love it. All right, keep going.
But to continue along that line, do you feel that what they're doing is right? You know, they believe that white people should be separate. They believe that they should have a state in this country. I think they felt that Mississippi or Georgia should be, you know, one of those two states should be the state. Do you feel that
I was thinking maybe they ought to make it New York.
New York, you think so? All right, I'm gonna get off of that, Governor. You look too tough.
No, I think that forced racial segregation is criminal and unconstitutional, and I think forced racial integration is criminal and unconstitutional. I think either one of them is cruel.
You mean on
By
social?
force.
You mean on a social level?
Any level, where it's forced.
Well, we do have like.
Okay, so let's focus on what he's saying. Because anybody against segregation in our day and age, that's considered a racist. If you are, anybody that's against integration is considered a racist. That's how we do it today. If you believe they should be separate, that's racism. He's saying he thinks it's actually wrong to force anything from the government onto the individual. And that's individualism 101. He's not trying to get the government involved. He wants to allow people to make their own choices of who they want to interact with. And let me ask you, is a racist going to sit next to a black man and have this conversation? That's the question I have. Like, is this individual racist internally, or are they racist based on the system and how they play the game of the system? And I think oftentimes collectivists are just going to give someone like this the racist card because of how they play their role in the system. That's it. Their role in the system makes them racist.
The laws. You mean when the laws are enforced, that if it involves integration, then it is wrong?
If it forces people against their will, against denying them their choice, to
Then you mean
separate or to integrate.
There should be an
It'd
exception.
be just as wrong if the law would be just as wrong to force them to integrate as it would to be to force them to segregate.
Well, don't you?
If a country can finally get to the point of saying, well, you're going to hire this person, you're going to promote this person, you're going to serve this person, or you, then the country.
We're hearing a lot of the similar language that people feel about DEI. And at the root of this is the individualist nature that I should have a choice. It shouldn't be forced upon us. Now, is DEI forcing a race on someone? In my estimation, no, right? In my understanding of the collective and the individuals involved in DEI, it's never forcing something like that, but it definitely has a bias or a predisposition. So I'm hearing this guy out. I'm not trying to be a one that wants to let white people say whatever they want. I'm just taking his word and judging him based on what he says. You know, people say, I don't question what they say they are. I take them at face value. But a lot of times what they're doing is they're taking their own perception of them. I'm listening to his perception of himself.
The same country can come right around and tell you that you've got to work for that person, you've got to eat with that person, you've got to be served by that person. And this would be cruel and wrong, but so it is when it tells another person that you've got to do this.
Well, the laws of the land tells us all what we have to do, basically.
That doesn't make it right.
Well, I agree with that, but
The Supreme Court goes outside the Constitution. That doesn't make the Supreme Court right, does it?
Don't you?
Now, they both agreed that the laws can be wrong. However, Jim Brown acquiesces to the system, to the laws, and that's a very collectivist notion. The laws have been dictated to me. It's so funny in my relationship. We struggle all the time because if there's a rule, I follow it. It's the system that's telling me what to do, and I'm not trying to break or buck the system because that's going to get me reprimanded in some other way. And so I've learned that in Texas, the collective nature of keeping myself safe to play my role in my family is following those rules based on the systems. But the individualists, they're going to be like, screw that. I'm doing me.
You believe to have an affluent society, we've all chose to live in a society together. Don't you believe that to preserve that society that we need laws of the land? That's why we have a society. And we cannot make exception to these laws just because a person happens to be black or white. Don't you
We've
believe
got
that?
most of these laws because we don't abide by the laws of God, though. And so we try to go against the laws of God and against the laws of nature, and we say, well, you're inferior, and you're not going to be able to meet with success in education or in your social life, even in your religious life, unless you do it with another race. And this teaches inferiority to me.
As
and
governor,
it's wrong, and it's criminal, and it's cruel to teach any one person that he is inferior to another race or his race is inferior.
Okay, that was really interesting. He pointed out a few things. He's saying he's leaning to God. Now, I'm going to take a leap from an individualistic standpoint. Individualism is imbued by God through the connection of Jesus Christ going and saying, you know, your relationship with God is that you are responsible for your relationship with God, going to Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation, basically breaking from the Catholic Church, right? And then going to John Locke, who's saying life, liberty, pursuit of property, and property, right? And then to Jefferson. So like this individualistic line does reach to God and a lot of times in their mindset. But even further, he said that, it's peculiar because we don't hear it this way. And I might have to play it back to really break it down. Hold on one second.
And we cannot make exception to these laws just because of...
And so we try to go against the laws of God and against the laws of nature, and we say, well, you're inferior, and you're not going to be able to meet with success in education or in your social...
Hey, first off, he said you're not going to be able to meet with success. You're not going to be able to reach success. Again, success, that's a clear indicator of individualists because they're focused on achieving something, reaching a goal, success, being successful. And he's saying that it's an inferiority being taught if you're saying the only way to be successful is to interact with another race. Why can't I be successful on my own? That's what he's positing from an individualistic standpoint. That makes him, in his mind, he's saying, I'm not racist. I just don't believe that I need to be with someone else to reach success.
Social life, even in your religious life, unless you do it with another race. And this teaches inferiority to me.
As
and
governor,
it's wrong, and it's criminal, and it's...
And in individualism, inferiority is leaning on something else. Needing something else or leaning on something could make you inferior. That's why you got that pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Do it on your own. That means you're not inferior. And so he's saying this idea that I would need to work with a Negro means that you're saying I'm inferior, right? And it's different. It's different. But he's not saying that he wouldn't work with a Negro. He's saying the idea that he would need to work with a Negro is racism. And I know I'm saying Negro. I'm trying to hop into their time. It don't sound right, though. It don't.
Cruel to teach any one person that he is inferior to another race or his race is inferior.
But as governor of the state of Georgia, did you go by the laws of God or by the laws of the state?
I go by the laws of God and by the laws of the state.
As you see fit.
What is...
No, it's not.
As you see fit is a bar, and that's the collectives looking at the individual saying you're selfish, you do it your own way, you break the rules, you bend the rules, and it's not right. And that's collectivist worldview on individualism, and it's not wrong. That as he see fits, that's how he's going to follow it. It's a bar. Also, that's a governor, so power dynamics, all of those things are at play as well from a collectivist lens.
When you say it's morally wrong, integration, I believe that's what you said, or
I said forced segregation or forced integration, racial integration or forced racial segregation. They're both morally wrong, cruel, and they're in violation of the United States Constitution, which is the law of the land, not the Supreme Court ruling that denies the Constitution.
You know, I assume you know Dr. Billy Graham.
Sir?
I said, you know Dr. Billy
Yes,
Graham?
sir.
He was here last night, and he said that racial prejudice is also morally wrong. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, sir. I think racial prejudice is wrong. Yes.
Okay. Hold on. You hear that? We have an individualist saying racial prejudice is wrong. And the crowd reacts like, oh, no, we don't believe you. You're racist. And that happens all the time. Someone says, I am not racist. I disagree with racism. And we prescribe on them from the collective point of view that that's a lie, a flat out lie. And that's so interesting that it happened here. I'm going to play it back, listen to it. He's going to be asked, do you believe in this thing? He's going to say no. And then they're going to all be like, nah, we know you do.
Graham.
Sir?
I said, you know Dr. Billy
Yes,
Graham?
sir.
He was here last night, and he said that racial prejudice is also morally wrong. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, sir. I think racial prejudice is wrong. Yes. We have our government's probably practicing more prejudice today than ever practiced in all the land so far as between the black and whites.
Mm-hmm.
There was a quote.
Okay, first, we always have to remember individualism's main opponent is traditionally the government, right? The big power, the system. Individualists are against that. And what's also unique is they're also against collectivism, but that doesn't rear its head as much in their speech until, we get to the Trumpian era, MAGA and stuff like that, or some anti-immigration eras when people are more, it's typically collectivists versus collectivists that hate each other, but the individualist is not looking at the collective in that way. So he's against, he's explicitly against the government, and he believes the government is showing prejudice. Sounds like DEI in his mind. That's a similarity.
That you made on the fight in Miami that Muhammad Ali participated in with Jerry Quarry, and well, not in Miami, but in Atlanta. But black people always felt that Atlanta was the model city of the South because of its integration and because of the participation in economics of black people. And your statement on the day of the fight was something like this, that it's a dark day in Georgia because this fight is being put on. Now, the law of the land says that a man can participate in his particular profession unless he is in jail. I felt very happy that this fight took place in Atlanta. How did you feel about it?
I felt very sad.
And why was that?
Here's a man that has said, well, here I want to fight in the ring for money, but I won't even wear the uniform of my country. He says that I can't do this, but in other words, I'm going to act different from these other people who stand up for their country and put on the uniform. Had they not fought for this country, if they were not even fighting today and wearing this uniform, that he could not even get in a ring and fight and be a free man to fight.
But isn't it true?
Okay, so Remember, individualism definitely looks to the patriotic and respect to the flag. That's something that they honor. And Muhammad Ali at this time is protesting. He's saying, I am not representing this country. And that does push individualist buttons, because the one thing that they are is they're a collective of individuals under the American flag. And the American flag gives them freedom, gives them the Bill of Rights, give them their individualistic nature. And so if you're not respecting the thing that allowed us to be individuals, then we don't like you as an individual. It's not because he's black, but I think Jim Brown and others perceive that as it's because he's black, not because he's anti-American. But oftentimes, individualists will see something that feels anti-American, and their fight or flight response will spark up.
He's helping to tear down this country with this philosophy, with this belief. Suppose every American, Mr. Brown, suppose every American had decided that they were not going to put on the uniform of their country, not fight for it.
Wow, there's a lot of people on this guy's side who it feels like, I thought people were thinking he's racist, but they heard that point. And that's probably because majority of Americans are individualistic, especially at this era. In today's society, it's not going that way. No. Especially now on TV. If this is Jimmy Kimmel Live, this conversation, nah, they booing him.
We wouldn't have a United States of America, and I couldn't be on your show, and you probably wouldn't even have a show tonight. It true? If everybody had that attitude, and I don't like it, and I don't care whether you like it, don't care who don't like it.
Well, I did serve my time, which, of course, I was a little before Muhammad Ali, and I was not maybe as intelligent as he is, because he was the first individual, I think, in this country that came out and said he had nothing against the Viet Cong. I think there were two other politicians in the country that made a very similar statement later. The late Bobby Kennedy came back from Vietnam and basically said the same thing. At the time, it was not a popular stand to make, but today it is a very popular stand. In fact, we have a lieutenant that's on trial now for certain things that happened in Vietnam. But I am saying that this man followed the law of the land. He made his stand. He has been fighting through the courts. He has gone to the higher courts, and he will go to jail if he is proven guilty.
Well, I hope he does go. I hope, because I think he's guilty of treason.
Can I finish? Don't you feel that whenever a man goes through the courts, that he is abiding by the laws of the land, and that man who is willing to stand up with that decision is a brave man, regardless of what his beliefs might be? I know a lot of Southerners.
Oh, we didn't get the answer to that. That hurts. Commercial break? Oh, man. That was good. You know, I think one thing that should be noted, from a collectivist culture is we really do look to people that push against the system, right? With Muhammad Ali saying, I'm not against the Viet Congs. I don't support this war. In a collectivist society, that's like, oh, snap, look at him. Oh, my goodness. I wish I had the strength, the bravery to push back against the system. Now, obviously, they only care that way about people from a collectivist lens pushing back against the system from the us versus them. Muhammad Ali is a us to Jim Brown, so him pushing back is admirable. But a them pushing back is a threat, right? And so if the governor is being collectivist, or this is the thing, a collectivist sees collectivism response. So even if an individual was responding back, the collectivist is going to put them in the group. And so the governor is saying, as an individual, I don't like what he did, for that other individual is acting this way. But Jim Brown and most collectivists see he's saying, I don't like that black man is disrespecting our country. He's already using them in. Jim Brown is already putting it in the us-them paradigm.
Who, really like black people. And, they portray themselves as being really segregationists, and they hate black people and so forth. But
I know some black people feel the same way, but I don't know any Southerners that don't like, white Southerners don't like blacks. Do you know of any? Can you name one?
I'll tell you something. That's a very interesting point.
Can you name one?
No, I'm going to answer that question. It's an interesting point, you see.
It is, yeah.
They like black people, but they like them in a role, you see.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, collectivism sees roles, right? They see positions. So they're going to prescribe that worldview outward. And anytime a white person interacts with a black person favorably, the collectivist sees it's only because of the role I'm playing. It's not that you like me as an individual, because they don't see individualism. So they can only see the role dynamics, which then doesn't give any individual the chance to be not racist, right? Because you're not treating me with respect. You're treating me with respect to my role that I'm playing. And that's what makes this stuff so tricky. Right, opening up this little segment, Jim Brown says there are white people that act like they like black people, and then they're segregationists, right? And then the governor says, well, I don't know any white Southerners that don't like black people. Maybe they want to be segregated because they want to protect their own culture, but they don't dislike you. And Jim Brown goes to the collectivist worldview. So it's the individual cannot communicate effectively with the collective because they're operating under two different frameworks.
They like them when they're very humble and they're very loyal.
I like humble people, whether they're white or black, don't you?
I know. But
No, I'm a rewind.
And they're very, but they like them in a role, you see. They like them when they're very humble and they're very loyal.
I like humble people, whether they're white or black, don't you?
I know, but you see.
And loyal people, whether they're black or white, don't you? I mean, you just like them. You don't like them loyal.
You don't like the
white
black people to have the choice, you see. It's only.
This is so interesting because to the governor, he's saying, I like humble people. Humble individuals get my pass. And what Jim Brown is saying, you only treat black people with respect when they're humble and they're playing that role. And the governor's like, I only treat all people with respect. But Jim is saying you don't give black people that choice, which is so interesting because choice is an individualistic framework. So he's saying black people don't have the choice to be accepted and acting out of line, which is that's like isn't that a weird thing to expect to be treated a certain way while acting out of line? And now that I think about it, I hear that argument a lot. It's like, you only like us when we're this, you only like us when we're that, when we do this, when we're loud or this, you don't like it. But is that inherently hateful? I don't know. It's hard to answer these questions.
A matter of choice.
I want black people and white people to have choice.
Well,
you
let me
got
ask
it
you-
all mixed up. You're trying to twist it around.
No, I'm only trying to agree with you. Would you let me finish?
It's so interesting that the governor says, you're twisting my words. And Jim is like, no, I'm just clarifying. I'm trying to agree and get your understanding down. And the choice that the governor wants is that they can all be segregated if they want. They can all integrate if they want, but it can't be forced by the government. And Jim Brown is saying that you're not allowing people to have choice because you won't allow black people to act however they want around you, which is probably true. I mean, I don't want anyone to act however they want around me. I want every person I interact with to act like in a cordial manner with me. My wife, there's times where she doesn't act how I want her to act around me. It's not that I'm giving her a choice or taking away her choice. I just don't like it, right? We all do that. So it's a weird request. It's a weird ask that the collectivist is asking of the individualist. It's just peculiar.
If you'll tell the truth.
Well, I'm only making an analysis, really. It's not a matter of truth. No, I'm only trying to agree with you. Would you let me finish?
If you'll tell the truth.
Well, I'm only making an analysis.
And here it goes. These are truth claims now, and they're disagreeing. They're seeing different worlds. That's why everyone says this group is lying, that group is lying. It's about the truth. And we already heard, can you let me finish? Mr. President, I'm speaking.
An analysis, really. It's not a matter of truth or false. What I'm really saying is that basically history has proven that during the days of slavery, whenever a slave was more or less humble and he did what he was told, that he was in good favor with the master. But whenever a slave was too educated, if he became aware of his own self and he wanted to become more than the master wanted him to become, then he was a bad slave. He was then put down because he represented a threat to the already established kind of white society.
Let me say this.
I want to hear his response, but I just want to highlight that within the role, we're pulling to history to make an assessment of today. And history says that there was a time where black people had to act a certain way, and doing anything outside of that made them a bad slave. And some of those things were actually like positives, right? When I first heard the example, I'm thinking acting negative, but this is a perfect example historically of when black people could not act a certain way that was still acceptable for anyone else to do. And I agree. Like, I mean, excuse me, there's a time where women weren't allowed to read, right? So, how broad the rights are given depends on the era. There was a time where white poor men weren't afforded certain rights, right? So, but I totally hear what he's saying, and I agree with him, actually. That's 100% true that there was that era where black people couldn't do certain things. Let's hear how the governor responds.
A threat to the already established kind of white society.
Let me say this. Those situations are true with white people and black people. Now, you're just trying to point it at black people only.
Because
but they've
that's-
been true
that's,
throughout
the
the history
subject
of the
we're
world.
talking about.
There's been discrimination. Black against black, black against white, white against black, and white against white. There always has been, there always will be.
I didn't know he was going to say that. Like, I promise, I did not know he was going to say that. But that's how deep I'm into individualism right now. And it's so true that the individual says, individuals been treated like this. The discrimination has been happening for a long, long time. So don't put all this on white people, or don't say black people are only ones that are victims to this stuff. It's been a historical reality that victimization has happened with different groups in different eras, which is true. So if we're talking about history, why are we so selective with the history? Collectivism is very selective with our history versus their history. And that's a good point. It's a good retort.
And you're not going to wipe it out, and
you're not-
Tricky Dick's not going to wipe it out, and the Supreme Court's not going to wipe it out.
You're not addressing it. You're not addressing
Are you
your
referring
answer
to
to
me
my
as
question.
Tricky Dick?
No, you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, you were.
Well, you know something, Governor? Believe it or not, I don't think that integration should be the number one thrust of our civil rights leaders anyway, because I think what we're really talking about in this country is economic development of black people, because I've found
Economic development of all people.
well, we're talking about underprivileged
How come just
people.
black people? How come
We're
you just
talking-
want to do it for
well,
black
I'll-
people? How come you don't
I'll
want to do it
tell
for
you-
white people?
I'll tell you why.
Huh?
I'll tell
How
you
come you
why.
don't-
See, the word all is a very individualistic word, because they're saying all the individuals should get this thing. And you remember Black Lives Matter? No, all lives matter, right? It's a proponent of being against collectivism. They don't like the idea that you're grouping this. You're grouping it. It should be about all individuals. Why are you putting groups on this? But to a collectivist, that sounds racist. It just, why can't you address the elephant in the room that we're talking about black people? He said, "You bringing the Indians into this? Oh my gosh, y'all trying to group up all these different collectives." But Jim Brown is alluding to those that have been harmed, which collectivism is very about group protection. So if a group has been harmed, they are going to be highlighted.
Okay, do you mind?
The governor
Now,
said
what I'm really
fully
saying
agrees.
is that I feel that the way to bring about equality of black people in this system is
What
through
about
economic...
equality of white people? Now, I
Can I-
won't interrupt you every time you keep calling black people.
Well,
What about equality of all people?
If you interrupt me, Governor, I can't talk to you.
Well, if you're just going to talk about black people, don't include all people. I try to include all people. You're just interested in the black. Why don't you tell these people that in Atlanta, Georgia, where you keep talking about the South, that the percentage-wise, more black people are professional business people, industrial
Governor,
leaders, more of them in our state house elected officials than
can I
any other
interrupt
state
you?
in the country.
Can I interrupt?
Okay. Governor got some facts on him. He talking about black excellence. It's funny because it don't sound like he's talking about black excellence, but that's essentially what he just laid out. He said, why aren't you talking about all the successes of black individuals in Atlanta? And that's a tough discrepancy between individualism and collectivism, because individualism wants to talk about successes and collectivism wants to talk about the harm and protect against those that have been wronged. So that's a clash.
Can I interrupt
Be
you?
all right, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. See, I'm not really here to fight with you. I'm only trying to have a discussion with you.
I'm not going to
And
fight
I'm
with
trying,
you either.
and I'm
but
trying to use the
I want you-
technique.
There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there watching you, and I want you to be fair about all people, not just black people. We got a lot of people in this country.
I can understand that, but you do know I have a reputation, right? And I saw
I don't
you.
know about it.
I
I'm not
saw
sure.
you. I saw
Tell
you.
me what.
Reputation. This is similar to what I don't know why Ta-Nehisi Coates said to Ezra Klein. He has a role. He has a responsibility. He has a reputation to the collective. So I hear what you're saying, but I have a job to do based on my position in the collective. And so he actually is a slave to this responsibility. I know that's probably not the best word, but he can't escape it. He's trapped in it. And even when the governor makes a point that Jim Brown agrees to, he alludes to his position. Like, I can't. I have a role.
Your reputation
I
is
saw you
now.
bring that state trooper back there, you know, behind the curtain. I know you brought him back there for a reason. But that's not my purpose tonight.
Here you go trying.
That is
here
not
you,
my
Well,
purpose
you let me
tonight.
tell you this.
Would you like to join this conversation?
No, I'm going to say this now.
The other thing is, they both say they don't want to fight with each other. So the antagonizing back and forth is actually the miscommunication of the two worldviews. They're not talking. They're butting heads. And so it feels like we're fighting. It feels frustrating. But from my lens, they actually aren't fighting. They're just miscommunicating. They're just talking past each other.
I would like. Why is it coming
Let me say this, Mr.
Would you let Dick talk a little
No, I've
longer?
got to say this. No, I'm going to
Still a while,
Before
man.
Before I got on this
because
program,
I got a
you
state
wouldn't
trooper
talk,
like
would you?
all the other governors in the country carry one, and they require it in the state governments that the governors have security personnel.
didn't get them because
so
you
I
knew I
carried
was
one
here,
of
right?
them. I didn't even know you would be here. It was a surprise when I came here tonight and found you would be here.
Okay, they're arguing because Jim Brown said you brought a state trooper around me because you know I'm black. And the governor's like, bro, what I have a state trooper with me because I'm a governor. I didn't even know you were going to be here. And so I can't tell if Jim Brown is joking, though, because he's laughing a lot. So I can't tell if he said that as an aside to, like, do a little dig. But the governor ain't playing with that. He's like, you ain't trying to make me look racist out here, my boy.
Wait.
I've never traveled anywhere in the United States since I've been governor. No other governors travel without one security personnel. Some of them have 3 and 4. I carry one man as an aide, not as security.
Governor Maddox, could
Are
I?
you afraid because I came up here with an aide?
I've forgotten what my voice sounds like.
I think what's also hard is the collectivist worldview is like, all right, governor, we hear you, but we know what you're really doing. And there's no respect given to the views of the individual.
I would like to say, Governor, I don't want you to create the impression that you were trapped in any sense. That I mean, it's been known for some days that Mr. Brown is going to be here. We didn't actually trap you, did we, into coming in?
Well, I want you to know that I didn't know he was going to be here, but it wouldn't make no difference because you invited me and I accepted the invitation.
Yes.
But he said something about I know his reputation. I don't know Jim Brown. Who is Jim Brown?
Well,
Okay. See, I think there's a smirk there. I think this is banter. I feel like it, right? It's Jim Brown. Like, you know who Jim Brown is. You've been talking to him this whole time. So that's a dig because he just got a dig. But diminishing someone's role is disrespect. So I don't know. Maybe he's racist.
let me introduce you.
Okay,
you know, that was I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that for several reasons. Dang, I want to be bigger.
Well, it is what it is. I enjoyed that for several reasons. One, it's just a look at the past. And as a collectivist, I love looking at the past. It's something that I value, and it gives us a lot of information about the present. These dances are still happening. This miscommunication has been going on for a very, very long time, and that's why I'm trying to highlight it, because a lot of our racial tension in this country isn't real. Now, I know there is real racial tension, but the majority of the racial tension is not real. It's a miscommunication between individualism and collectivism. And if you hear me, if you understand what I'm saying, man, lock in, subscribe. I'm going to try and up my production value. I'm new to this, okay? But I have to try, the individual in me says just go out, learn, hold yourself accountable, show up every day. So that's what I'm going to try and do. Appreciate y'all so much. Deuces.